a complete circuit. Again, this is about the electrical and pranic or chi circuit in your body, and connecting to the sun with this. Okay, I have to press. There we go. Save lesson. Because I don't want to give you half a recipe. I want to give you all of the recipe that is necessary for you to do this properly and safely. And I have it all in the recorded lesson. So here, I'll just. There we go. When I look, I usually look through some form of shade or filter. I usually use my hat to filter things out, the edge of a window pane, and the rainbow is still there, a lacy curtain, or trees are really great for stepping down that solar consciousness because, again, like trees are enormous, people don't give them enough credit for the continuity of consciousness that trees have. They're not just this generation of tree, they are every generation of tree. I actually want to turn off the thing in the background because then I think you'll be able to see my face a little bit better. Yes, the trees that you see are not just this generation of tree, they are every generation of tree. So they are connected to their own ancient ancestor network. And when the consciousness of the galactic consciousness is filtering through the sun, which is then filtering through the ancient consciousness ancestral network of the trees, you get just the right amount of food. And I think I was saying that earlier in this class, that it's not very nice to be force-fed. You know something? I will tell you, I eat meat, but I would never eat foie gras, the fatty liver of a duck that has been abused literally by having food forced down its throat. I'm sorry, but this is something I would like to speak to humans about. This is the way that humans treat non-human intelligent animals, and it is not acceptable. I'm not casting aspersions on anyone here in this class. It's totally fine to eat humanely raised animals, but treating them cruelly is not okay, and treating them cruelly for something that's quote-unquote a delicacy, like you're literally torturing an animal so that you can then eat its diseased organ. This is the madness of the age. This will be remembered as the madness of the age that we come from. Like people inject botulism toxin into their forehead because they think it makes them look young and beautiful. It doesn't make you look young and beautiful. It paralyzes your third eye. I don't know if people know this, but you know, fluoride calcifies or mineralizes your third eye and makes it less functional. Botox injections into your forehead also diminish the capacity of your third eye to function properly. So just wanted to throw that out there. The consciousness being filtered through the ancient tree network and then reaching you, it is like energy being gently stepped down so that you're getting it in sensible bites. You do not want to blast open all of your chakras and blast open your kundalini. And the reason for that is that it can be incapacitating. Imagine a total dissolution of your personality where you no longer know who you are or where you exist or what your context is or what your life purpose is, and then having to rebuild, because that's what it is when so much energy blasts through a person. It really washes away a lot of aspects of their persona, of their personhood, of who they are. And then it's necessary to rebuild and restructure. So, to use the analogy of lifting weights, when you lift weights, you're making tiny tears on the level of the cells of the muscles of your body. Tiny little tears. And then your muscles say, hey, I need to repair those tiny little tears by building more muscles, right? But, if you lifted something that was really, really, really heavy, it would tear all of the muscles and then they would be injured. So you don't want to injure your muscles. You just want to injure them a tiny amount. And that's when you are a little sore after a workout, you're like, I've injured my muscles a tiny little amount, so I can tell that I'm going to get stronger. That is what spirit work and personal cultivation should be like. You do work like meditation and self-observation and journaling and all of the types of, what it takes for you to look inside and look in your own mirror in small, manageable increments. And that's like lifting weights and you make tiny little tears in your muscles. You know, having a spontaneous Kundalini rising can be like blasting open the doors of your perception, and it can just be so overwhelming. It's like just tearing everything to bits, and then it takes time for that injury to heal. So cultivation is different than complete dissolution of the self. And I was speaking with Mike today, and he talked about ego dissolution, and there's a lot of spirit teachings. The rainbow is still there, class. There's a lot of spirit teachings about getting rid of your ego, and I am here to tell you, you don't have to get rid of your ego. No, that is not true. Just like you don't have to get rid of your physical body. People think like, wow, I have to die in order to go to heaven. No. You can live in a heavenly state here in the physical realm, but we get to redefine physicality. We get to make this experience very different. In exactly the same way, the experience of having an ego or a persona can be much more comfortable than what you're currently experiencing. You don't have to get rid of your ego entirely. If you had no ego, literally, you would just be a clear conduit for the energy and the presence of the universe to come through. But that means that you don't have your own personal agenda. You don't have your own desires. It's not like, oh, I can't wait to visit Washington, D.C., or I can't wait to eat a ham sandwich. You don't desire either of those things. What is desired is what the universe desires. So you don't have a personal agenda in those moments. So that does not mean that you're going to get up and wash the dishes, or that you're going to get up and create food for yourself, or that you're going to go out and perform any kind of money-earning activity, or that you're going to do anything other than, perceiving and existing. So having an ego is also a necessary part of interfacing with other people who have egos. Because when you meet another ego, one of the first things they say is, who are you? Like if you go to call someone or walk up to someone on the street, the first thing you do is you introduce yourself. You say, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. Or I come from blah, blah place. Or let's say you meet someone and they will say to you, well, who are you and where do you come from? And essentially explain yourself here. And when I first came here, I didn't even have my name Aurora yet. I didn't have these answers. I couldn't say where I came from and what my name was and who I was. And it made it very difficult to have an interaction. People in this time and place need to be able to know, like, this is where your house is, and this is your website, and this is your phone number, and you have a backstory explaining who you are. People aren't okay with just talking to someone like a sprite in the woods and, interacting with them on that level. So egos are necessary tools for interacting or interfacing with other egos. But what you do not want, just like you want to have a physical body, but you don't want to have an uncomfortable physical body. You don't want to be in physical pain or decrepitude, and you don't want to have an uncomfortable ego. So here's an example of an uncomfortable ego. A person who feels so slighted or so diminished in themselves that they can't feel happy at someone else's joy. Like if you're a writer and you see someone else has gotten something published and you're like, I hate that person who got published. I want to get published. That's not a comfortable ego. And there's a physicist, I can't remember his name, but he's from the subcontinent of India. He's also very spiritual, and he was telling in an interview one time about how when he first started in his physics career, he was suffering terribly because he couldn't celebrate the achievements of some of his coworkers or other people that he knew in the physics community. He'd see them get published and he'd just be like, I want to be published, that should be me. And he realized that he was suffering, and he had to look inside and find out why, and it was about his ego. This is the journey. This is what it's all about. If you look at someone who is beautiful and you feel diminished in the presence of their beauty, that's your ego. If you look at someone who has wealth and you feel diminished because they have wealth or success, that's the ego. And ego can also be uncomfortable in other ways, in terms of projecting or in terms of misinterpreting, or there are many ways that I would say ego is uncomfortable. And also, constant mental chatter is very uncomfortable. I'd say constant mental chatter would be the example of physical flabbiness. If you were 500 pounds overweight and had big giant skin flaps, and every time you moved your arm you had giant, flapping like flesh that went every place. That's the constant mental chatter. Most people are always moving their mind and it's not intentional. So really, in terms of having a comfortable ego, it is about thinking the thoughts you wish to think. And I mean, to me, having a comfortable ego also means like being my true divinely loving self. When there are unkind thoughts in my mind, like, holy cow, look at that huge ass, something like that, I know that's not coming from me. Like, I'm a very loving person and I generally wouldn't think things like that. And those are, remember when I was talking about the spinning of my chakras and the spinning of my lasagna? At this point in my development, those thoughts, ping, they get shot right out. They don't even get into the lasagna. But I see them, I see them coming and I'm like, not interested. And that's another thing that you can really think about with your third eye. And I give much more detailed explanations of exactly how to do this deflection, but you can really do a lot with no thank you. And just really not being interested in, and that's what it's really all about. What we train our third eye on, we are attenuating, we are ingesting. Some people choose to watch TV shows about serial killers and murders and unsolved crimes and a lot of really darkness, like the dark behavior of humanity. And when you're doing that, it's like, something, you can look intimately into a sewer. Have you ever been to one of those festivals where there's like a porta potty? You can look intimately into the porta potty and see all of the stuff that's down there. It's really gross. I prefer not to look. If I have to use one of those, I don't even want to know what's down there. This is like humanity, like there are dark toilet cesspools of what's gone on in people's existences, but you do not necessarily have to delve with your third eye into the dark cesspit. Same thing with when you begin to open and activate your third eye, you might perceive things about people, about their existence, about the state of their physical health, about life experiences that they have had, about whether they have abused or victimized others or done things that are harmful or cruel. And you have to be prepared for that, but I would say don't delve. That's what I usually tell myself, because in earlier times, like when my third eye was awakening, and I would be like standing in line, like whatever. Oh my goodness, I had to be in traffic court for like a traffic ticket. And I remember standing in line and I was like scanning all these people with my third eye, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing. And I could tell like, oh, this guy's got this disease, this guy's got this problem, this person is a total criminal and a liar. And I had to tell myself, don't delve. Like if you have energetic currency and you can choose what you spend it on, you can choose what you think, right? You can choose, this is the interpretation lens of my mind, and I can choose what I look at. I don't have to look at somebody's diseased body. I don't have to look at somebody's criminal past. I can choose to look at things that are really interesting to me. So I tell myself, don't spend my energetic currency on that crap. I'm not interested. Don't delve. And also, I really do not watch a lot of TV, so I'm not filling up my mind and my system of perception with a lot of those things, but advertising and commercials are so much about hijacking your pineal gland. It's not funny. And because I don't really expose myself to it, when I am exposed to it, I really notice it. I'm like, go to get my hair done at the salon, and I always look at the, silly magazines that are there. And then when I walk out, I'm like, do I need that color lipstick? I'm like, I don't need that color lipstick. This is something else hijacking my pineal gland. So just giving you a little bit on that. And I want to give a little bit more on, I talk about it in the recorded lesson, but the idea of a sun bath, and you can actually learn to transport yourself to the sun. And I don't mean physically, because clearly, if I transported my physical corporeal form to the sun, I would have been incinerated. But I traveled with my non-physical energy body, my light body. Your light body is made of light, and it is part of the sun. And in the recorded lesson, I also had up that picture that talks about the Earth's magnetosphere and the sun's heliosphere, and the places where the magnetic lines converge, that those are portals, and it's places where you can travel with your consciousness. So again, traveling with my consciousness, not traveling with my physical corporeal form, but it had an impact on my corporeal form. Because when I went into the sun, I felt all of the sun's light waves completely matching up with my chakras. And anything that was canted at an angle, that was out of alignment, went into alignment. And all the stuff that had been like dirty, distorted glass because it was at an angle and it got dirt on it, all of a sudden, all of that stuff got cleared away, like, like rain washing something away, or like power washing the side of a building. That's what these solar emanations really do. They really power wash your chakras and wash away all of the false parts of yourself. When I talk about having a comfortable ego is only the parts that you need. So I realized here on earth, you need an ego, just like you need a physical body, but you don't need a 500-pound physical body. You need a physical body that is the right size and that doesn't have excess stuff. You need an ego that's the right size. So you need to be able to say, this is who I am and this is what I'm about and these are my preferences, but also to be flexible and be able to change. You might say like, I'm a morning person. That's the definition of who I am. But sometimes you might have to change and go out at night and also do things at night. Or you might say, I never eat this type of stuff. That's not who I am. I don't define myself in that way. But you might travel and find that prosciutto is delicious, Open up your mind. You don't define yourself by who you always are. Because if you always say, I'm a person who never eats prosciutto, and you cannot withstand that, because then there will be doors that you close to yourself. So having a healthy and well-toned ego is important. And I wanted to bring up the idea of using the sun as a tool for purification of your consciousness. That also, it can be purification of wounds of the past, because I found those to be the things that were most disturbing to the humming along of my chakras. Usually it's not things that are within my control that make me feel bad. Usually it's remembering, wounds of the past, and they need to be healed. And going into the sun and being bathed by the sun helps to heal any of those old injuries, and you don't have to hold on to the scar and be distorted by the negative experience. You become whole again, you become made whole. So I did a lot of talking, and now I'm going to open it up to comments or further questions or delineations, if I can clarify some of the things that I've been talking about. Okay, now Elle shares with us and says, we have an east-facing balcony that is perfect for viewing the sunrise. My feet don't touch the ground, but I imagine connecting through my feet and base of my spine through the balcony structure to the earth. There are palm trees in line of sight, so that seems like the perfect spot. I would absolutely agree. And that's the practice. It is connecting your spine, imagining that it is connected to the center of the earth, and there's a singularity, just like there's a singularity at the center of this formation, there's one at the center of the earth, there's one at the center of your apparatus up here of your non-physical body, and there's one at the center of the sun. And really embodying that truth means you are connecting all three of those singularities through your corporeal vessel. That is a very magical and amazing thing to do. It is like the convergence of energy from many different dimensions coming through a physical body. So no more shall people in this class say, having a physical body sucks. Like I'm uncomfortable, or my back hurts, or I'm hungry, or my feet smell, or I have to buy food, or I have to buy toilet paper. No. Do not be that way. Be this way. Say, my physical body is fair enough, need to catch the door. My physical body is the nexus for a confluence of multidimensional energies on a miraculous level. It's a much more accurate and apt way of looking at your body as a portal for energies to interact in the physical realm. It's literally what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a rainbow bridge, a bridge of consciousness between the earthly planetary plane and the solar celestial plane. We're supposed to be together. And I am an example of this type of being. That's why I have my name Aurora, because the Aurora Borealis and Australis are the direct result of the interplay of the emanations of the sun and the Earth's magnetic field. It's the sun's energy and the Earth's energy. It's divine receptivity and the more reaching out energy that reaches out and actually goes to that which is receptive. And it's the balance of these two things that is the divine partnership. So I also bring that up. Each one of us can be and should be this beautiful rainbow bridge of consciousness between the earthly plane and the celestial plane. And when we do this, what we're really doing is literally bringing the heavens down to earth. The heavens is how people talk about the celestial, the star world, and it's literally we are bringing that energy and that consciousness into the denser material realms of the physical plane.
When you accrete energy from the sun, does it stay there until it's used, or can it leak away?
That's an excellent question. In case the question didn't come through on the mic, Michael is asking, when one accretes energy, essentially, does it stay in your bank account or does it leak away? And that is a very good question. It depends on how secure your bank account is or where you leave your money. Do you leave your money lying around? Things can get stolen. There are those little gremlins. There are those little negative service to self entities that love to steal energy. So you know something? If you live in the Bronx, don't leave your keys in your car, right? Because your car is going to get stolen. You have to lock your car. So really, when we are getting up to levels of personal responsibility and cosmic adulthood, we have to secure our energy so that it doesn't get stolen. They try to steal energy from me all the time. I don't let them. Here's what it feels like. I'm in a great mood. I'm feeling so great. I'm so jazzed to be alive. And they try to steal energy from me by saying, hey, think about this bad thought. Think about something that brings you down. Or, hey, worry about this thing. Or, hey, worry about this person. Or, hey, think about someone who you don't like and the bad things that they've done to you. This is how energy is stolen from you. Or in the sense of this, like if you get up and you're feeling so optimistic, like, I believe anything can happen. Like, I believe in all the good things that can come to me. And then like when it is stolen from you, when it's like, except blah, 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 which will never happen because life isn't fair. You know, you have like, sometimes you can have these moments of like total optimistic and like you're connected to all these possibilities and everything. And then like it can all get like, the rug is whisked out from underneath you, you know. So it's like, yeah, like I could win that race. That could be me breaking the tape. It's like, except that I would, lose my shoelace in the second mile and then I wouldn't be able to make it, or, whatever people think. If they think like I could start a company, yeah, and you begin to use your pineal gland, you begin to use your imagination and envision like, yeah, and I could like have a private jet and I could do all this, and then what happens is the energy gets siphoned off with some doubtful thought, which is like, except I have bankruptcy from a previous, company that can never work, or except my ex-wife would never let me do that, or except I'm not allowed to do that in my country, or except I'm not whatever. So, there's always ways that people, it is a form of self-sabotage, really. Like, don't leave value. I don't leave my valuable ring, sitting in the middle of a public park where someone else can take it. I don't leave, when I want to make a painting, I don't necessarily share the beginning ideas with the world, because people sometimes try to take away your energy. They try to shoot you down. They try to be like, that painting sucks before you even paint it. And you have to protect yourself from that. So if you're trying to, and creation is also like cosmic love making, okay? It's not something that really is, it is best done in private, but not in secrecy, but in private. And it is best done, don't share the results right away. Like, even if you're pregnant, even if you have conceived and you have a pregnancy, you wait a little while before you share that with someone to make sure that it's a viable pregnancy. So it's the same thing with any painting or any project or any new life change that you're trying to make. I think it's best not to make a huge announcement and say everything to the whole world, woohoo, this is going on, because you have to give it time to develop. And then once it's viable, then you tell people, because people will shoot slings and arrows. Be prepared for it. Be prepared, because sometimes people's mouths are conduits for these lower vibrational negative thought entities. So you have to be prepared for the externalized voice of doubt. So I do a lot with no thank you internally, no thank you externally, and also protect your energy. And having an inner security system, this is all about the Merkaba, and performing those shielding and grounding techniques really does help to prevent energy from being siphoned off and stolen. So that was the long answer. The short answer is yes, when you accrete light, light stays within you and it doesn't go bad and it doesn't evaporate away unless it gets stolen or siphoned out of your account. And unfortunately, like I pay my internet service through my bank account automatically. I didn't know, but there was this disreputable company that was taking $5 out of my account for like the past year. And that's what it's like with some of these demonic or lower vibrational entities. Like sometimes you don't realize that they've been in there acting on your account for years or for decades, and it's not until you actually come to a higher level of realization that you see them there. So Jonathan Tlalaut is a writer, and he wrote a book called The Electric Jesus, and when he was speaking at a place where I was giving a presentation, he spoke about how he had a recent realization that he had a parasite on his orange chakra at the level of his emotions for years, that he had suffered from panic attacks every time before he had to give a presentation. And he's a writer and he's also a public speaker, so it would happen quite often. And he would always just like knuckle under, like just get through it and everything. But it wasn't until he had some higher perspective that he was able to see that his panic attacks were actually a negative vibrational entity that was feeding off of him. And that feeling of panic and anxiety was literally the feeling of anxiety, like money going out the window. And what he learned was, and what I share with you all, is that these beings that steal from you, they really want to be healed. They really make themselves known because they wish to be healed. It's like saying a criminal. Criminals always make those key missteps and then they get caught because they want to be caught. These lower vibrational negative entities exist in a hellish state. They actually want to be perceived and then loved, which means love is the universal solvent. Loved means they get dissolved. If you send a negative vibrational thought entity into the sun and they are subjected to a solar bath, most of them gets washed away. Imagine a big fat 500-pound person and you put them in a shower and it starts to wash away all the fat, wash away. And then what you're left with is like the tiniest little, pea-sized individual. That's what these beings are like. But that little tiny pea is real consciousness. That's who they really were before they became twisted and distorted and lived as a demonic, lower vibrational entity. So when you notice that you are being stolen from, all you need to do is love these entities. Recognize that they are doing those actions in order to become noticed and send them back to the great galactic central sun. And I will give more direct, practical 1, 2, 3 instructions and recipes for how to do that when we get closer to lesson 18. So we're a couple of weeks away, but believe me, I'm not just throwing you out there and be like, oh, just tell them to go back to the great galactic central sun. That's like when you come home from school after being bullied with a black eye and you say, just tell, and your mom says, oh, just tell them to stop. Like, no, it's not like that. Like, you need practical lessons in self-defense about how to do this. And I can tell you how to do that, but I can't do it for you. But it's just like anything. It's like any kind of martial arts or jujitsu or whatever, you have to practice it. So you have to get faster, and eventually when you raise when I raise your vibration, when you move your chakras at a faster rate, the world appears to be going in slow motion. And you can definitely catch them. Imagine that you're moving at such a fast rate that someone is shooting an arrow at you and you can just grab it like this and be like, that arrow isn't going to get me at all. That's what my experience is like now. They used to shoot me with arrows that would get me all the time, and I hated it. So I totally empathize. But what I did was raised my energetic metabolism, where now I'm moving at such a fast rate, I can see the arrows coming. And the arrows are these negative thoughts. The arrows are thoughts of anxiety or doubt or despair or any of those things that bring your energy down, and I deflect them, or I even catch them. I have a quiver full of arrows that I have caught. I call it the slush fund. I catch that energy, I put it in the slush fund. I can do whatever I want with the slush fund. I will teach you how to do this, or teach you the ways that I do this, and you can then apply it to your own existence. So do not be concerned, that is coming in future lessons. Just checking to see if there's any other questions or comments.
I wanted to share something.
Would love for you to. Thank you.
When I was in the jungle last year in Peru, the last ceremony that we did was in the daytime. And I went after the ceremony down to the creek to bathe. And just so everyone knows what I'm talking about, we were drinking ayahuasca, and I went down to the creek to bathe, and we had just broken the dieta, so we were able to use soap for the first time in 10 days. So it was a really good bathing. And when I looked up, we were very close to the equator, and it was in the middle of the day. And when I looked up, I was still very much feeling I drank some more of the medicine later on in the ceremony, so I was very much still feeling the effects of the medicine. And I was able to literally stare at the sun wide-eyed and just drink and drink and drink. It was amazing. It was just knowing that I'm capable of that from that experience, because now, like you say, I have to look indirectly or through, like, I try not to do it when I drive, but like you said, there's a lot of opportunities.
I know, right?
But through a tree is very interesting how it, like you said, steps down. It's like very, very interesting dance of frequency that you get. It's very interesting. It's so intense. But anyway, I just wanted to share that human beings can, without burning their retinas, stare directly at the midday sun on the equator.
Absolutely excellent anecdote. Thank you for sharing that personal experience with us. And my interpretation would be that, through your experience of not only you were fasting and purifying yourself, and then you took an entheogen under the supervision of a shaman and had a peak experience. Like, you were very, very high in your vibration when you were able to do that. And those peak experiences, they show us what we are capable of. And then it is a question of getting back up to that level or re-experiencing that. So it's like it's like if you're a musician and sometimes it's really a struggle and it's like, I have to think what I'm doing. But sometimes you have a peak experience where it's like, oh my God, I'm playing like Mozart. And then the next day it's like, I'm back to me again. What happened to Mozart? But you have those moments in order to show you what you're really capable of. And then it's like, keep practicing. You'll get back to Mozart. And that's what I would really say, like that peak experience is we have that potential inside of us, and we just have to keep practicing and cultivating, and we will get up there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it is getting a little bit late. Any more questions, comments?
Well, I was just wondering, as you get energy from the sun, your percentage of energy you get that way increases, and what you need from food then decreases, right? Is that what happens?
Yes. Okay, so the question, in case you couldn't hear it from Mike off camera, is, as you ingest more sunlight, does your dependency on physical food decrease? I would say yes, but and. There are caveats to this. In my personal experience, In 2012, during the concurrent planetary ascension and raising of consciousness, in my own personal experience, I was not only doing tons of sun gazing, I was ingesting a lot of real physical food too. And the reason that I can tell you this, or the understanding that I can explain of this, is that, performing psychic activities uses a lot of energy. And I needed to get energy from every single source that I possibly could. So I ate lots of peanut butter and cheese and chocolate and everything that was really high in food and nourishment, and I did tons of sun gazing too. And I'm still kind of that way, even though I don't necessarily eat quite so much. It was almost like a pregnancy, like a time when you have to eat a lot in order to really fuel the next stage that you're getting to. So sometimes that's another thing, is sometimes you have high nutritional needs, sometimes you have lower nutritional needs. So, sometimes you might need more sunlight and sometimes you might need less sunlight. But the idea is that eventually we will not require physical food. But I think I've told you guys about how, like, when I first came into this realm, I just presumed that that's how it was. I didn't understand it was a transition, and that it was a transition that would take many years. So now I am much more like happy, safe, and comfortable, like I'm kind and gentle. I understand if the transition takes decades, it can take as long as it needs to take. We get to be happy, safe, and comfortable. So we will have physical food available to us during the time that we need that, and we will also be able to practice our sun gazing. But I'm telling you, nothing is better. Like, if you have ever been on a juice fast or been on like some kind of a fast where like you didn't have to think about food or prepare food or really ingest it, like if you just drink juice, your intestines don't have to spend all of that energy actually digesting like big solid protein and everything like that. And you really do have a lot more energy for things like meditation and spirituality and creativity. But of course, if you don't ingest enough calories, your body can't sustain itself, so it's not sustainable. But those little breaks, like there's a value to doing a juice fast or to doing a cleanse, to being able to have more mental breathing space. At times when I didn't have to eat, I was so happy, that I love to eat, food is good, chocolate is yummy, but also sometimes it can be burdensome, because man, time to cook some eggs, time to clean up from the cooking of the eggs, time to make a smoothie, time to clean up from it, time to go to the grocery store and buy food, time to use the toilet, time to buy toilet paper. These things take a lot of time, and body maintenance takes a lot of time. So, and I joke with this about what my hyperspace guides who have never had a body, they don't understand the value of toilet paper. It's like a time to sit down and meditate. No, time to go out and buy toilet paper, then we will sit down and meditate, because toilet paper is an important part of living life on Earth. So the answer is we're in transition to a different economy and to a different energy system. And our personal changes of our personal body are concurrent with planetary changes. So we are all changing and going through this spiritual adolescence or cosmic adolescence, where at the end of it, we will be adults in our adult form, our fully winged form, flying out of our chrysalises, leaving our cocoons, and being able to travel with consciousness to any dimension that we choose, eat nothing but pure sunlight, and not be tied to the surface of a planet, really being able to choose where we live. This is more than days, weeks, or months in the future. This is many decades in the future. But that's like saying that there's lots of episodes of your favorite TV show that you haven't watched yet. It's like you haven't seen seasons 10 through 55 yet. So it's like Doctor Who. There's lots of seasons. There's lots coming. So there's lots of good stuff for us to experience, and not to be too gung-ho, or too let's get there right now. Enjoy the journey. It's a transition. We're still in that transitionary state. Question from Noel. He asks, have we talked about the role that our throat chakra plays in interpreting and working with the third eye and crown chakras? So that's a really important question. That is about transmission of energy. This is literally about the capacity to send out energy. So when you receive direct energy from the abstract presence, from the source, that energy comes into your insight. You understand it on a deep level. But then in order to speak about it or share it with anyone else, it has to be able to go through the throat chakra, and it has to be able to be, that's what the word express means. It means to be sent out. So just like, you know, your mouth has different functions. It can have food go into it and it can have saliva or vomit come out of it. Like chakras are like organs. They have functions, and the function of this chakra is to express energy. So I'll tell you another trick in terms of purging negative experiences of the past. Your saliva is an outgrowth of your lymph. These are your adenoids here, and your lymph is circulated through your adenoids. And if you are remembering a negative experience and you want to get rid of it, spit. Literally, your lymph nodes are putting a chemical into your saliva when you think those thoughts. Don't circulate it back down. Don't swallow it back down. Spit it out. And especially like if you're going for a long walk or a run or whatever, something that's very cardiovascular, and it's bringing, you're like burning stuff off, and negativity comes up, spit it out. I know it's unladylike, but I do it because I don't care about the social convention. I care, and now I can almost taste it. I can almost taste the negativity, and I'm like I don't want to have to swallow that back on down. So sometimes I'm very discreet, but this chakra is for expressing. It can express beautiful music. It can express joyful things and saying, I love you. It can also purge and express things that you don't want to be inside anymore. And that's okay too, and appropriate. So, and I'll do more on throat chakra, I think, in some of the later lessons, because that's a really big topic, and I think that I would give it short shrift if I only said that about it. There's so much more about it than just that. Okay, so it is getting a little late. I think I'm going to wrap it up for this. Well, you know what I'll do actually? Here, I will minimize my screen, and I'm going to stop the recording and